What happens when a royal prince walks onto one of daytime television's hottest stages and completely loses control in front of millions of viewers? In just 34 seconds, a single comment from Joy Behar would trigger an outburst so shocking that security would have to step in and remove a member of the British royal family from the building. This is the story of the day Prince Harry got kicked off The View. The studio lights were blazing hot that morning as the audience settled into their seats. The energy in the room was electric. Everyone knew this was going to be a big episode. Prince Harry was scheduled to appear, and the producers had promised fireworks. They had no idea how right they would be. Joy Behar sat at the table, shuffling her notes and preparing for what she thought would be a standard interview. She had interviewed dozens of celebrities, politicians, and public figures over the years. She knew how to handle difficult guests, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. The applause was deafening as Prince Harry walked out onto the stage. He waved to the crowd with a smile that seemed just a little too tight, a little too forced. Something was already off about his demeanor. The audience didn't notice. They were too busy cheering for royalty. He sat down across from Joy, and the interview began normally enough. "Welcome to The View," Joy said warmly, extending her hand for a shake. "We're so thrilled to have you here." "Thank you for having me," Harry replied, but his tone was clipped. Short, almost dismissive. Joy pressed on, professional as always. "So, you've been doing a lot of press lately about your new projects. Tell us what you've been working on." Harry leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Well, I've been focused on my charitable work. You know, the things that actually matter. Not the trivial nonsense that usually gets discussed on shows like this." The audience went quiet. You could hear the collective intake of breath. Joy's smile faltered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly. "Shows like this," she repeated, her eyebrow raising slightly. "We cover quite a bit here, actually. Everything from politics to social issues to, yes, entertainment. It's a mix." "Right," Harry said with a smirk. "A mix. That's one way to put it." Joy shifted in her seat. She had dealt with condescending guests before, but this was different. This was pointed, deliberate. "Well, let's talk about your charitable work then," Joy said, keeping her voice steady. "You've been very vocal about mental health awareness. That's an important topic." "It is," Harry agreed. "Though I wonder if your audience really understands the depth of what I'm talking about. These are serious issues. Life and death issues. Not fodder for morning television chatter." The other hosts at the table exchanged glances. This was getting uncomfortable fast. Joy took a breath. "Our audience is very intelligent. And engaged, actually. Many of them deal with mental health challenges themselves, or have loved ones who do. I think you might be underestimating them." "Am I?" Harry shot back. "Because from what I've seen, American talk shows tend to dumb everything down. It's all surface level, all flash, no substance." The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut with a knife. Joy's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. "That's quite an assumption," she said evenly. "Especially coming from someone who's appeared on plenty of American talk shows to promote various things over the years." Harry's face reddened. "I'm here as a courtesy, to try to elevate the conversation. But clearly that's too much to ask." "A courtesy?" Joy repeated, and now there was an edge to her voice, a sharpness. "Let me tell you something about courtesy. Courtesy is respecting the platform you're on, and the people who invited you. Courtesy is not coming onto someone's show and insulting their audience." "I'm not insulting anyone," Harry protested. "I'm being honest. Something that seems to be in short supply in American media." Joy leaned forward. "You want honesty? Here's some honesty. You walked out here with an attitude from the moment you sat down. You've been condescending and rude, and now you're generalizing about an entire country's media while sitting on an American talk show. Do you see the irony?" The audience began to murmur. Some were nodding in agreement with Joy. Others looked shocked that she was challenging a prince so directly. Harry's face went from red to purple. "How dare you speak to me that way? Do you have any idea who I am?" And there it was, the line that would be replayed over and over again. Joy didn't miss a beat. "I know exactly who you are. You're a guest on my show, and right now, you're being incredibly disrespectful." "Disrespectful?" Harry's voice was rising now. "You're the one being disrespectful. I'm a prince. I've served my country. I've done more for charity than you could ever dream of. And I have to sit here and listen to some talk show host lecture me?" The studio went completely silent. Everyone was frozen, watching this car crash unfold in real time. Joy's voice was calm, but firm. "Your title doesn't give you the right to be rude. Your charity work, which is admirable, by the way, doesn't excuse bad behavior. And yes, you do have to sit here and listen to me, because this is my show. If you don't like it, there's the door." Harry stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is absurd. I didn't come here to be attacked by someone who makes a living gossiping and stirring up drama." "Attacked?" Joy stood up as well now, matching his energy. "You came on here attacking us from the start. You insulted our show, our audience, and our country. All we've done is try to have a conversation with you. But apparently, that's beneath you." "You know what?" Harry said, his voice shaking with anger. "You're absolutely right. This is beneath me. This whole thing is beneath me. I shouldn't have wasted my time coming here." Joy crossed her arms. "Then don't let the door hit you on the way out." Harry's mouth dropped open. He clearly wasn't used to being spoken to this way. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Joy said firmly. "If we're so beneath you, if this is such a waste of your precious royal time, then leave. Nobody's forcing you to stay." Harry pointed a finger at Joy, his hand trembling. "You can't talk to me like that. I'm a member of the royal family." "And I'm the host of this show," Joy fired back. "In this studio, I call the shots. Not you. Not your title. Not your family name. Me." The audience was completely riveted. Some people had their hands over their mouths. Others were filming on their phones, despite the no recording policy. Harry took a step toward Joy, his face contorted with rage. "You're going to regret this. Do you understand? You're going to regret the way you've treated me." One of the producers rushed onto the stage, trying to de-escalate. "Hey, let's all just take a breath here." Harry whirled on the producer. "Don't tell me to take a breath. This woman has been antagonizing me since I sat down." Joy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Antagonizing you? I asked you about your charitable work. You're the one who started throwing insults around." "I was being honest," Harry insisted. "No," Joy corrected. "You were being arrogant. There's a difference." Harry's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "I have done more good in this world than you ever will. I've helped people with real problems. What have you done besides sit behind a desk and run your mouth?" The other hosts gasped. This had gone way too far. Joy's eyes narrowed. "I've used my platform to give voice to important issues for decades. I've interviewed world leaders, activists, and changemakers. I've raised awareness about things that matter, and I've done it all without hiding behind a title or acting like I'm better than everyone else." "You think you're so clever?" Harry sneered. "So quick with your comebacks, but you're just another loudmouth American who doesn't understand respect." That was it. That was the moment Joy had had enough. "Get out," she said, her voice cold and clear. Harry blinked. "What?" "I said get out. This interview is over. You're done here." "You can't kick me off," Harry sputtered. "I'm the guest." "I'm the host," Joy countered, "and I can absolutely kick you off. This is my show, and I'm telling you to leave. Now." Harry looked around wildly, as if expecting someone to come to his defense. The other hosts sat silently. The audience watched with bated breath. The producers stood frozen, unsure what to do. "This is ridiculous," Harry said, his voice pitching higher. "You're being completely unreasonable." "I'm being unreasonable?" Joy's voice rose to match his. "You came on here, insulted everyone, acted like we should be grateful just to be in your presence, and I'm the unreasonable one?" "Yes," Harry shouted, "because I'm trying to do something important, and you're treating me like I'm some nobody off the street." Joy stepped closer to him, her eyes blazing. Important people don't need to tell everyone how important they are. They show it through their actions, and your actions right now are showing me exactly who you are. Harry's face twisted with fury. "You have no idea who I am." "I know enough," Joy said. "I know that you're entitled. I know that you think your title means you can treat people however you want. And I know that I want you off my stage right now." "Fine," Harry yelled. "I'll leave. But mark my words, you're going to pay for this. Everyone will know how you treated me." Joy didn't flinch. "Let them know. Let everyone know. I've got nothing to hide. Can you say the same?" That hit a nerve. Harry's whole body went rigid. "How dare you?" he whispered, his voice dangerous and low. "How dare I what?" Joy challenged. "How dare I stand up to you? How dare I not bow and scrape because of who your grandmother was? How dare I expect basic decency and respect?" Harry took another step toward her, and that's when security finally moved in. Two large men in suits appeared from the wings, positioning themselves between Harry and Joy. "Sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave," one of them said calmly but firmly. Harry looked at them, then back at Joy, then at the audience. His chest was heaving. His face was still flushed with anger. "This is unbelievable," he said. "Absolutely unbelievable." "The exit is that way," Joy said, pointing toward the stage door. The security guards gently but firmly took Harry by the arms. "Don't touch me," he snapped, trying to shake them off. "I can walk myself out." "Then do it," Joy said. Harry glared at her one last time. "You'll regret this." "I doubt it," Joy replied, coolly. As the security guards escorted Harry toward the exit, he continued to rant. "This is how Americans treat their guests? This is your idea of hospitality? No wonder the rest of the world thinks you're all so rude." Joy called after him, "And no wonder you left the royal family if this is how you handle a simple conversation." Harry stopped in his tracks and spun around, but the security guards held him back. "What did you just say?" he demanded. Joy stood her ground. "You heard me. If you can't handle a talk show host asking you questions, how are you supposed to handle actual royal duties?" Harry tried to lunge forward, but the security guards held him firmly. "Let me go," he shouted. "Let me go right now." "Sir, you need to leave immediately," one of the guards said, his voice still professional, but with an unmistakable edge of warning. The other hosts had stood up now, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of shock and disbelief. Harry was still struggling. Against the guards, his face contorted with rage. "You have no right to put your hands on me. I'm a prince. A prince." "Not in this building, you're not," Joy said. "In this building, you're just another guest who couldn't behave himself." The audience was in complete chaos now. Some people were cheering for Joy. Others were gasping at the spectacle. A few were trying to get better angles with their phones. "This is assault," Harry yelled as the guards continued to guide him toward the exit. "You're all witnesses. They're assaulting me." One of the producers rushed over to Joy. "Are you okay?" Joy nodded, never taking her eyes off Harry as he was escorted away. "I'm fine. Just make sure he actually leaves the building." Harry was still shouting as he disappeared backstage. "You haven't heard the last of this. I'll make sure everyone knows what happened here. Everyone!" And then he was gone. The stage door closed behind him with a decisive click. The studio was in stunned silence for a moment. Then, slowly, the audience began to applaud. It started with just a few people, then grew louder and louder until the entire studio was on its feet, giving Joy a standing ovation. Joy stood there, her heart pounding, trying to process what had just happened. She had just kicked a prince off her show. A member of the British royal family had just been physically escorted out of the building because of her. She looked at the other hosts, who were all staring at her with wide eyes. "Well," she said finally, her voice still steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "That was interesting." The audience laughed, the tension breaking like a dam bursting. Joy sat back down at the table, smoothing out her notes even though her hands were shaking slightly. "We're going to take a quick break," she said to the camera. "When we come back, we'll try to have a conversation with someone who actually wants to be here." The audience laughed again, and the producers called for a commercial break. Backstage, Harry was still causing a scene. His voice could be heard echoing through the halls as he argued with security, with producers, with anyone who would listen. "This is unacceptable. Do you know who I am? You can't treat me this way." But the security guards were unmoved. They had seen plenty of difficult guests over the years. A prince throwing a tantrum was just another day at the office. "Sir, your car is waiting outside," one of them said. "We need you to leave the premises now." "I'm not going anywhere until I get an apology," Harry insisted. "That woman humiliated me on national television. She owes me an apology." "That's not going to happen, sir," the guard replied. "You need to leave. Now." Harry looked around, realizing he had no allies here. No one was coming to his rescue. No one was taking his side. "This is outrageous," he muttered, but his voice had lost some of its fire. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. He had just been kicked off a talk show, escorted out by security, like some kind of common troublemaker. The guards led him through the backstage corridors, past crew members who quickly averted their eyes, past dressing rooms and production offices, until they reached the back exit. "Your car is right there," one of the guards said, pointing to a black SUV idling at the curb. Harry stared at the car, then back at the building. Part of him wanted to march back in there and demand satisfaction. Demand respect. Demand an apology. But the larger part of him, the part that was starting to feel the weight of what he had just done, knew it was over. He had lost. Completely and utterly lost. Without another word, he walked to the car and got in. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud, and the SUV pulled away from the curb, leaving the chaos behind. Back inside the studio, Joy was trying to collect herself during the commercial break. The other hosts gathered around. Her. "That was insane," one of them said. "Are you okay?" another asked. Joy nodded. "I'm fine. Just, wow. That really happened, didn't it?" They all nodded, still processing the confrontation they had just witnessed. "You handled that perfectly," one host said. "Seriously, you didn't back down. You stood your ground." "I wasn't going to let him talk to us like that," Joy said firmly. "Title or no title, there's no excuse for that kind of behavior." The producer rushed over, headset askew. "We're back in 30 seconds. Are you good to continue?" Joy took a deep breath and nodded. "Yeah, I'm good. Let's finish the show." When they came back from commercial, Joy addressed the audience directly. "Well, that was unexpected," she said with a slight smile. "For those of you just joining us, we had a guest who decided to make a dramatic exit." The audience laughed, and Joy continued. "Look, I don't take any pleasure in what just happened, but I've been doing this job for a long time, and one thing I've learned is that respect goes both ways. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. If you come on this show, you treat people with dignity and respect. Period." The audience erupted in applause again. "We've got a great show still ahead of us," Joy said, moving on. "So let's not let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch." And just like that, the show continued. But everyone in that studio knew they had just witnessed something extraordinary, something that would be talked about for years to come. The day Joy Behar kicked Prince Harry off The View. In the control room, the director was already fielding calls from network executives. The footage was gold, absolute television gold. Within hours, clips would be circulating online. Within days, it would be international news. But in that moment, in the studio, Joy just focused on getting through the rest of the show, on being professional, on proving that she had made the right call, because she had. Deep down, she knew she had. You don't get to treat people poorly just because of who you are. You don't get to insult an audience, a show, and a host, and expect to be welcomed with open arms. Title or no title, prince or not, everyone has to follow the same basic rules of human decency. And when Harry forgot that, when he let his ego and his entitlement take over, Joy did what any good host would do. She stood up for herself, for her show, and for her audience. She showed him the door, and she didn't look back.